evening, everyone. My name is Nikki Gaskin Capehart, and I'm the Director of Urban Affairs for the City of St. Petersburg. And it is my pleasure this evening to serve as your Mistress of Ceremonies, and to start by recognizing the outstanding Emerging Leaders class: Unisha Bullard, Caprice Edmonds, Ashley Green, Jenny Henry, Dorian Johnson, Jaquivia Malone, Christopher McClendon, Raphael Robinson, Deja Sawyer, Michael Shorter Jr., and Marielle Summers. Let's give them all a round of applause. And tonight we want to recognize our outstanding emerging leaders who were supported by this 2020 One Community City of St. Petersburg initiative, led by our own program director, Ms. Deb Fig Sanders. Let's give her a round of applause. So these leaders have been engaged in personal development activities, historical deep dives, if you will, very thought-provoking presentations and conversations about the history in our city. They've been equipped with the proper tools to be advocates and even agitators if necessary. They've had an active role in participating in several different events and activities in our city. They've gone on trips, and these emerging leaders have really put in the hard work. And emerging leaders, your hard work, blood, sweat, and tears have paid off. And tonight we salute you and your families who supported you to get here. So another round of applause for being our inaugural class, because those leadership junkies like myself, who for years have said we need a Black leadership St. Pete, or we need a Black this and Black that. This is the start of having something very intentional for having a succession plan for the generational leadership that we need in our community. And we are not apologetic about it, and we want you to own it. So with that, I'd like to bring up one of the Emerging Leaders class members, Minister Michael Shorter. If you would please come forward so you could give us a prayer for our leadership.
Let us pray. God, we come to you tonight so ever thankful for this opportunity that you have given us as the inaugural class of the Emerging Leaders Program. God, we pray tonight for the paths that our life will take us on. Father, we pray for each and every one of these graduates of this class who are current and future leaders. God, we pray, and our focus of our prayer tonight is that you will help us as leaders. God, that you would help us to be honest. God, that you would help us to work together. Help us, God, to be professional, not petty. Help us to be empathetic and effective. Help us to be humble. Help us to be healthy. God, we ask that you would help us to be thoughtful and transparent. Help us to learn to say no. And God, help us to be nice. Help us with wisdom, and help us with our words. Help us to know our purpose and your plan. God, we ask that you would help us as we seek to help others. It's in your name that I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Shorter. And now it gives me great honor to bring up our own Senator, Senator Darrell E. Roussan, District 19 in St. Petersburg, representing our region very well from the St. Petersburg side. So we like to always emphasize that, don't we, Darrell? Thank you so much for your representation in Tallahassee, and please come forward and salute our class.
Good evening. Leadership is about being bold. It's both a blessing and a burden. It means sacrificing family, time, talent, and effort for the good of the community. I congratulate you, emerging leaders, because we need you. We have had great leadership in this community, from Morris Milton to James B. Sanderlin to Ralph Wimbish, Bet Wimbish, Ed Pop Kirkland, Joe Savage, Lonnie Donaldson, heroes in our community, Enoch Davis. But the blessing of leadership is training those to come behind you and take your place. You will not always be popular. You will not always be thanked. You must be able to withstand criticism and still answer to your heart, answer to your God. And so I welcome you tonight. I thank you. When I leave here, I'm headed to the Fred Minnis Bar Association, their banquet, their scholarship banquet. Somebody's going to come to you like I went to the Minnis Bar Association. Some issue is going to confront you in your communities, in your families, in your church. And you're going to have to rise to the occasion. We lost 8 black teenagers over 3 years from stealing cars. We led the entire state. And I challenged the black lawyers to come up with a program to go after these prolific juvenile offenders. And they demonstrated leadership, and we were able to bring $100,000 back. 15 of the first 30 slots have been filled, and they're now working a mentoring program with at-risk youth. The issue will come to you. Don't be afraid to grab it. Somebody said that nothing could be done with those 6 crack houses on Queensboro Avenue and 22nd Street. But we built a sweet bay there, didn't we, Pastor Murphy? It took leadership. And so I thank you, I welcome you, I challenge you to take my place. Take Commissioner Ken Welch's place. Take Charlie Gerdes' place. Take Gypsy Gallardo's place. Well, maybe not Gypsy. Take Watson Haynes' place. Thank you for this opportunity, and I brought each of you a commendation from the Florida Senate to be given to you when you're honored later on tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to meet you.
Thank you, Senator Rouson. And we're often reminded that for those of us who are mentoring, that we have to continue to do that on a regular basis. If you are not training someone to replace you, then you need to start right away. That is what true planning like this is about. We want to be able to pass the mantle. We want to be able to say that we are helping to build the legacies of those who come before us by honoring and continuing to hold the torch high. So with that, it gives me pleasure also to have our Commissioner Ken T. Welch for the Pinellas County Board of Commissioners to come forward and greet you this evening on behalf of the county. Thank you, Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Nikki. You notice she threw the T in there, Ken T. Welch. The T is for Tyrone, after my dad. I want to thank the City of St. Pete, 2021 community, all the sponsors that made this possible. And I'll be brief, but I want to ask all the emerging leaders just to stand so I can see you while I'm speaking. If you would just stand, and I'll be brief. Let's give them a hand. So as Nikki said, we often, and I'll be 55, double nickels, Nikki, in August. And we often talk and say, well, where is the next generation of leadership? And we see the next generation right here. I want to thank you and tell you how proud we are of you. Y'all are already leaders. I've seen several of you working in our community, speaking truth to power. And I know that we are in good hands. I want to echo a couple of things the senator said, and I'll go back to a proverb. It says, to whom much is given, much is required. And each of you has been given something that is innate, and that's the spirit of leadership. There's something in your spirit that just won't let you sit down and stay out of things. Won't let you just watch, but it urges you to engage. I'm looking at you, Sister Green. and it's so important because, as Darryl said, there are things happening right in this community, right across the street, right down the street, that are going to require engagement. Martin Luther King says the true measure of a person is not where they stand when things are easy, right? But when the difficulties come. And that's when we need y'all to fully engage. And I would just add, follow your heart. Folks are going to pump you up when they see you rising up and becoming that leader that's now recognized by folks in and out of the community as a leader. Folks are going to come to you with their own agendas. You have to be focused not on being a leader for leadership's sake, but a leader for the impact it will make on this community. And I mentioned my dad, and you know, I went through losing him a couple of years ago back in 2013. And we had a storage unit full of the awards and the plaques and the trophies, everything he was given. Those things will go away, but what will last is the impact that you make on this community, on a younger person coming behind you, and that is the thing that's the most important about leadership. And finally, if you don't have my phone number, get it before I leave. Reach out to folks that are in leadership now. I have an open door. I'm willing to tell you what I know. You know, the knowledge we have is something we need to share. And you need to share that with folks that are coming up behind you. We've got a lot of work to do in this community. And again, I just want to congratulate you all on taking that next step in leadership. God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. Make sure you take him up on that because he really does mean it. All of our elected officials that are here tonight have made this commitment to be here because they believe in you. And I also want to make sure that before I bring up our council chair, that I recognize on my team, Richard Prince, who is a part of our urban affairs team. If you would please stand up and be recognized. He's working very diligently with me on several initiatives like this one, and this takes a huge effort. So I want to make sure that I recognize CDAT and Brother John and all of the hard work of your organization as well as a part of this initiative. Please give them a round of applause. And of course, everybody knows that my sister in crime over here, mastermind, Miss Gypsy Gallardo, who of course is leading the 2020 and One Community Planning effort. We've been working on this for many years together, and we are very, very excited to finally have this here. We are so proud of it, but please give Gypsy a round of applause as well. And of course, I would want to recognize everybody that's a part of the initiative here, but I also want to make sure that the Urban League, who is the fiscal agent of the 2020 and One Community Plan, led by our own Watson Haynes, if you would please also give him a round of applause. So with that, if our council chair, Mr. Charlie Gertis, would please come forward. We want him to give you his words of encouragement as well and how he's used his leadership to get to where he is. Thank you, Charlie.
No, stop it, thank you. I didn't do anything. I'm gonna have to have a talk with Nikki though, because next time I'm going before Darryl and before Ken, because following them is really, really hard. I love both of those men deeply. Daryl and I go back to high school, and Ken Welch has been kind enough to be a friend and a mentor to me. So being in the same room with them is always a privilege. But I want to thank Deborah Fig Sanders for inviting me. It's a privilege to be with you tonight. And I see in the room many folks that have been kind to me, that have been candid with me, that have shared with me. I remember when I first ran for city council and met Gypsy and heard about 2020 and a CRA, and you all have just been so kind and receptive to me, and I appreciate all of you that are in the room. But to the emerging leaders, I want to thank you. I have 3 grandchildren that live in this city. I want them to live in this city for a long time. I have 4 grown sons who live in this city and raising families in this city, and I want them to live in this city for a long time. And I am hoping and wishing and dreaming that you emerging leaders that stood up for Commissioner Welch will be part of making their dreams come true for this beautiful place we call home. And I trust you. I know when Nikki mentioned agitation, I was thinking that's the reason Ashley Green was in the class. But, no, I'm teasing, Ashley. I love you. I am here to say thank you to you for standing up, coming forward, and putting in the time and the effort to be a leader and to be recognized as a leader. I'm not as eloquent as Senator Rousson, and I'm not as thoughtful about the community as Commissioner Welch. So what I did was I looked to some other people who were smart about what leadership is, and I'm just going to share with you. The first quote is from Alexander Hamilton, who was one of the co-authors of the Federalist Papers, which was the explanation for the Constitution of the United States when it was being passed. And you think about it, you know, back then, those guys, they didn't have TV and video games and Rays games to go to, and all they did was read and think. And I want to share with you a quote from Alexander Hamilton about leadership. And unsurprisingly, Daryl and Commissioner Welch have already touched on this. But this is back from 1775. When occasions present themselves in which the interests of the people are at variance with their inclinations, it is the duty of the persons whom they have appointed to be the guardians of those interests to withstand the temporary delusion in order to give them time and opportunity for more cool and sedate reflection. Instances might be cited in which a conduct of this kind has saved the people from very fatal consequences of their own mistakes and has procured lasting moments of their gratitude to the men and women who had the courage and the magnanimity to serve them at the peril of their displeasure. Daryl talked about the courage to get insulted, to be criticized. And Daryl and Commissioner Welch both talked about being true to yourself. And those are so important. And there's another guy who's a more recent thinker. His name is Peter Drucker, and he puts it very succinctly. He says, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right thing. And that's what you're called to do. I know that's what you'll do because the mentors, the people in this room who have wrapped their arms around you and called you and nurtured you and encouraged you, that's what I know they do. And you've seen them in action, and I trust that you know that to be the right thing to do. I'm going to leave you with another thing that both Commissioner Welch and Daryl Rousson shared with you. Daryl and I happen to be members of the same fellowship, and I won't talk about what the name of that fellowship is, but the most important thing for you as leaders to be is true to yourself. You need to be able to look in the mirror in the morning and sleep with yourself when you lay your head on the pillow at night. Because if you're not true to who you are, you can't be a leader. You can't fake people. They'll know it. Be true to yourself
and you'll be a great leader. I love all of you. Thank you for having me here. I apologize, I have to leave and go to another thing, but I'm so happy that I got to share some time with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council Chair Curtis. And now we're really excited to have our emerging leaders participation portion of our program. And this is through the impact study presentation. So our first presenter is Ms., I'm looking for her, Unisha Bullard. If Unisha would come forward. Let's give her a warm round of applause as she comes forward to present her presentation on the impact study.
Hello. Alrighty, good evening. My name is Unisha Bullard. Of course, I am a 2020 Emerging Leader. Today I'm going to be speaking about Black entrepreneurship here in St. Petersburg, Florida. This is an important topic for me because I am a Black entrepreneur. So St. Pete Black-owned firms have the lowest income revenue when stacked against 5 comparison cities in Florida. In 1977, there were only 300 Black-owned firms compared to the nearly 4,500 Black-owned firms here in 2012. You can press that. Out of those 300 business owners in 1977, 57% of them had at least one paid worker. As we fast forward to 2012, that 57% reduced only to 3%. As shown on the graph, Black-owned firms count for 18% of firms in St. Pete, but only 1% of business revenue and less than 1/3 of 1% for payroll generated by firms. So while the number of Black-owned firms grew tremendously, the average revenue took a huge decline. I'm sorry. In 1977, Black-owned businesses had an average revenue of $160,000, and now that has decreased to only $28,000 a year. So we went from $160,000 to $28,000. Data shows that African Americans turn to self-employment of necessity or to make ends meet. For most business owners, the goal is not longevity, but to keep afloat. So therefore, they're starting businesses because they don't have any money, but they're not starting businesses to keep them to be successful. We're looking at the rise of entrepreneurship and self-employment and the decline of average revenues. We must take a deeper look at the contributing factors. 55% of the unemployment population is ex-offenders. Data indicates that the surge includes a great many ex-offenders who struggle in the job market and resulted to self-employment as a fallback option. Data also shows that 33% of African Americans work in service jobs opposed to business jobs. Only 17% of African American workers work in management, business, and science, high-paid jobs compared to 29% of white workers. At the wake of the Great Recession, Black unemployment and entrepreneurship grew simultaneously. African Americans take up nearly 1/3, 32% of the city's unemployment population. Some additional eye-opening facts that I saw in the report are that white residents take in almost 12 times more self-employment income in dollars. For white workers, education gains correlate to bigger paychecks, especially in women. Black workers saw no such gain and men's earnings shrank 1.4%, although their college education grew by 7%. African Americans are a larger part of St. Pete's population, means they have a bigger impact on St. Pete's economy. There's only one St. Pete firm on the top 50 minority-owned firms, in contrast to the city of St. Pete and Tampa. My recommendations to improve the economic status of Black-owned businesses is, the first one will be unity. In 1977, although we didn't have many Black-owned businesses, they were successful. Way more successful than Black-owned firms compared to in 2012. One big difference between 1977 and 2012 is that those businesses had paid workers. If our businesses could come together and work as one instead of having many isolated businesses, they would be much more successful in bringing the community together and increasing our revenue. The second recommendation, will be preparation. Due to most Black-owned businesses starting off as a side hustle to make more money to live, businesses are started up extremely fast without much preparation to learn how to run a successful business that will last longer than the average 1 to 3 business lifespan. Effective training is also necessary. Due to Black workers mostly working in service jobs, they do not have any experience in business or management. These are key factors. Confidence. We as a people, Black people, are not confident in our businesses. We must say that we want to own a Walmart or want to start a big company as big as Apple. But the reality is our Black-owned businesses don't see themselves on that caliber. Therefore, the way they move and operate does not push them to grow and reach their maximum potential. We also need to be able to provide jobs. If we say that we are going to buy our block back and take back 22nd Street and make it our own Black Wall Street, we must plan and work towards providing jobs for our community. If we provide jobs, we are more likely to receive support from our community. We also want to be able to see for-profit business grants. Finding more ways to grant Black-owned businesses that are accessible and truly focused on helping us. Last but not least, it takes a village. In everything we do, if we want to see our Black-owned firms be successful, it takes a village. It takes the CEOs consciously taking the time to shop, promote, and invest. It takes our community to participate. We need investors to understand that we are worthy and can create successful businesses. And our community leaders need to continue to push towards making Black-owned businesses great again. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Jenny Ward, and I am a 2020 emerging leader. Figure it out for yourself, my lad. You've all that the greatest of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you would be wise. With this equipment, they all began. So start for the top and say, I can. We've been raped, mutilated, and slowly destroyed. Our ideals, traditions, and customs have been slowly stripped away. We built the pyramids, yet there is a 26% gap in home ownership in St. Petersburg. We created mathematics, and yet our children are lagging behind in education. In our hands, we created civilizations, and yet we make up only 25% of the city's population. There is a population gap, and our children are being born into poverty. Black-owned businesses once lined 22nd Street. We generate $1 billion in income, and yet we now make up only 14% of the firms in St. Petersburg. Mentality is defined as the characteristic attitude of mind or way of thinking of a person or a group. It is also the capacity for intellect, thought. Our king and queen mentality has been marginalized to think lesser than or inferior to. We have become complacent, and it seems that the fire that once burned rich within us has been strangled, lacking the oxygen needed to survive. Where is our fight? Where are our mentors? Where are our men? Where are our leaders? Where are our advocates? In December of 2018, we were past a burning torch. So now what do we do with this torch? Where do we go from here? There are several contributing factors that have put us in the condition that we are in as a whole. But I pose to you that the biggest contributing factor is our mentality. Until we change the mind and learn from our mistakes, we will continue to run in the same cycles. Until we start planning for our succession, groom those under us, pass down our rich legacy, take someone under our wings, letting them know that I made the same mistake that you are about to make, and I don't want to see you go down that road. We will continue to run in the same cycles. Until we come together as one, as a community, until we want to see each other win and not only think about self. We will continue to broaden the gaps that we are so desperately trying to bridge. Until we rebuild our confidence in self, we will continue to fall behind. The mind is a very powerful thing, and until we reprogram our way of thinking, we will continue to create the same insanity. Courage must come from the soul within. The man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out for yourself, my lad. You were born with all that the great have had. With your equipment, they all began. Get a hold of yourself and say, I can.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jenny. So I wanted to make sure that you are aware that what our emerging leaders did, they had an assignment that Gypsy gave them to massage, to really delve deep into the economic study of Black life in St. Petersburg. And this is what 3 of them have had the opportunity to come forward and present to you. So our last presentation is from Ms. Marielle Summers. If you would come forward, give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I said good evening, everybody. Yeah, there we go. My name is Marielle Summers, and I am so excited to be here with you all and present to you my analysis of the baseline report of the economic status of St. Petersburg's Black community. So I don't know if you all have had a chance to overlook this report, but it's a great report filled with tons of empirical data that graphs, numbers, charts. But what does it all mean, right? Well, for me, the information presents what Dr. Martin Luther King once called a dilemma and a challenge, right? So back in 1962 in Los Angeles, California, Dr. King gave a speech, and in that speech, he talked about Black people facing a dilemma and a challenge. And this is one of my favorite quotes. He says, "He who gets behind in a race must forever remain behind or run faster than the man in front. This is our dilemma." So this evening, briefly, I would like you all to look with me through the lens of the dilemma and the challenge. You see here in St. Petersburg, open racism and racial discrimination have largely subsided for the most part, but the inequalities and the inequities that they left behind are still very apparent in almost every dimension of Black-white life, and this is our dilemma. Yet today we have more entrepreneurs, higher education, and a better infrastructure than ever before. And so the challenge is for us as leaders to leverage these advancements to bridge those societal gaps. So that's what we're gonna look through here, the dilemma and the challenge. There are 3 main components of this dilemma that I want to talk about briefly here. The first is this position of nihilism. nihilism, black nihilism. Now, nihilism is defined as the rejection of all principles, right? This belief that life is meaningless. And black philosophers and black political scientists have talked about this for years. Du Bois talked about it way back when in The Souls of Black Folks, when he talks about this double consciousness that arises in our people when we're facing certain conditions. In the contemporary context, Dr. Cornel West talks about it, black nihilism, and how certain African Americans have this total disregard for human life and property. Now, what these guys are ultimately asserting, right, is that there are certain stereotypes, theories, assumptions that beset the black conscience. And I found some of those to be apparent right here in the report. So according to the report, most black people are generally poor. The black family is dying off. Black women do uphold the household. Black people do make less money. Whites are wealthier than blacks. Black neighborhoods are poor neighborhoods, and black businesses don't make money. That's one of the things that the report said, and we have to be aware of this, right? Because what happens, it has to be addressed. It takes me to the second position, is this nihilism further complicates and entrenches already complicated issues, right? And so now in 2019, we have tons of resources available to address said issues. But our resources are sporadically accessible, and they are inadequately attended, right? Sporadically accessible. Do you know last year, Healthy St. Pete did a report that showed that over 3,000 nonprofit organizations are registered in South Pinellas County. And here in our home city of St. Petersburg, over close to 2,400, well, it's 2019 now, so I'm sure the number's 2,400, exists right here in St. Petersburg. But where is everything? We're having a hard time mapping out where our resources actually exist. And I think that this leads to our inadequate attendance. How many people have put on a program or have attended a program where 10 or 20 people are showing up? Y'all have seen our issues, and we're not gonna fix our community 10 or 20 people at a time. Brings me to my third pillar, right? Is because there's not a lot of research out there about attendance with development initiatives, but just based on what I've been observing and based on what this report says, it looks like data trends suggest that we aren't addressing the issues adequately. We've had too many years of small gains or no gains. And this lack of growth, this reinforces the lack of confidence in the very initiatives that we're trying to put on. So the very people that we're trying to help are reinforced with the lack of confidence because we aren't doing anything. If you look at some of the graphs that were included in the report, from income to black-owned firms, entrepreneurship and unemployment to black home ownership, the gaps are stagnant, and in some instances they are widening. And as leaders and leadership initiatives, we have to be able to address how this looks to the black general public, right? So based on those three components to this dilemma, the question for me then becomes, how do we render the available resources, the existing resources, to have a greater recognizable impact on development to influence the people? It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. I got to answer it. I've been studying it. And I think the answer lies in community leaders and all entities concerned with the problem focusing, recalibrating on civil inspiration and collective determination. Civil inspiration, collective determination. What do I mean by that? In my official report, I said that the community needs visible coalitions of resources that assert legitimacy through results. The entities concerned with development, like education, business development, financial literacy, counseling, and faith, must group themselves together and consolidate their efforts to establish legitimacy in the eyes of the black population. United works will make development initiatives more observable for the community and in turn increase involvement. As a result, individual paths to progression become more reputed. Now, this is an important step in overcoming these stereotypes of incompetency and ineffectiveness. That's a lot to stay in one statement, and I'm happy to meet anybody for a business lunch or dinner to expound, but the general concept is very clear here. St. Petersburg needs a cultural and a social rejuvenation. To quote myself once more, I said that the concept of wraparound services is fine, but a culture of wraparound services is what development initiatives must become if we want to bring about a social and cultural rejuvenation. This is our challenge. That is our challenge. And so, as I close here, before I close here, just these things here, this living network, this organization, this resource consolidation, this is going to create the influence that's going to lead people to start walking into our doors. When we can walk the walk and people can look at us and tell what we can do without us having to say anything, this is when numbers and data trends are going to start to look more favorable. So with this last graphic here, I'll just close you guys by saying that if we can recalibrate and focus on these steps, our efforts will be more far-reaching. It'll be a lot easier. I personally think that we have everything we need to begin to address these problems. These are just some of the initiatives that I could think of right off of the top of my head. But remember what I said at the beginning, guys, is that we have a greater entrepreneurial spirit than ever before in our communities, a higher education than ever before in our communities. And so as we plan, we can't overlook the heart of the issue, and that's overcoming this inferiority and arousing the conscience in our people. This last graphic I chose on purpose because this young black man, his last hurdle he has to pass is the wealth gap. And that's what we're talking about, the economic status. And it says go back 5. And the last 5 spots are poor schools, gang culture, affirmative action, disproportionate prison sentences, and subprime mortgage lending. Gentrification, anybody? So the dilemma and the challenge are ours to overcome. Thank y'all so much for listening.
Do you see what I'm talking about when we say our emerging leaders are dynamic? And we have more seats up front. If there are other people, we'll make sure to bring out more chairs. But again, give all 3 of our presentations another round of applause for the outstanding work that they did on showcasing their understanding and knowledge of the economic study. And now we are so excited to have a presentation by these young ladies who have spent time at our state capitol. The emerging leaders at the Capitol, led by our own Deja Sawyer. If you're ready, please come forward. We're ready to hear from you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deja Sawyer. I am a 2018 School of Business and Industry graduate at Florida A&M University, which is also known as FAMU. I've had the pleasure of serving as the project manager for the first ever 2020/1 community Tallahassee Legislative Intern Program. Greetings, everyone. Miss Maya Mitchell couldn't be here this evening, but she was the next person up to speak. I am Paris Stockley. I am a recent graduate of Florida A&M University, and I was proud to serve as a public relations intern during this 2020 legislative session.
Good evening, I am Maya Hughes. I'm currently a student at Florida A&M University, and I serve as the legislative process and pre-law expert in this internship.
Okay, so just to give you a little blueprint on how this wonderful initiative came about, and we just want to say first off, just thank you to Ms. Gypsy for coming to me and believing in me to handle something like this. So when she came to me about the initiative, I am a 2020 emerging leader. I moved up to Tallahassee to work during the 2019 legislative session. And she still wanted, they all wanted me to be mobilized. Ms. Capehart, Ms. Deborah wanted to be mobilized and engaged still in the process of the internship. So Ms. Gypsy came to me about this wonderful initiative, and I said, definitely yes. We felt the importance of millennials being involved when it comes to the advancement for Black people, for minorities in general, and we wanted to be a part of this process. So we served during this legislative session really to bring about awareness of the issues that are going on, not just in Pinellas County, but going on across the state, throughout the state of Florida. So we'll get into it. So this gives the background information on how the Advancing Florida initiative started. So this initiative was put in place to address Minnesota's economic and racial disparities. So it started in 2016. Okay, so it started in 2016. The bill committed to $35 million in one-time funding and $17.5 million in ongoing yearly funding put into this initiative to fund. This initiative was spearheaded by subcommittee co-chairs, Senator Bobby Joe Champion and Deputy Majority Leader, Senator Jeff Hayden, which then led to Florida pushing for similar investments.
Hey everybody, just to give you some of our background information along with the mission, we really just want to bring awareness to the economic and demographic changes going on here within St. Petersburg. We want to make that known to some of those Florida lawmakers up during the 2019 term of sessions. So we would really just get involved with some of the committee meetings, going to some of the Black Caucus events, talking to these senators and these representatives across the state of Florida, just putting a face with the action that is taking place here in St. Pete. It's kind of hard to, get things off the ground running and moving forward financial support when you really don't have a face up in the Capitol. So that was really our goal, and just to kind of put a face with the name of the project. We advocated for an increase in investment for inclusive growth in our state. Looking at some of our small metrics and statistics throughout our programs, there was one statistic chart that showed about 29 different categories, and out of the 19 of those 21, excuse me, 19 of those categories, African Americans ranked the lowest. And that ranged from lowest entrepreneurship levels, employment rates, and even home ownership and mortgage-free home ownership, just to name a few. So with this legislative, we requested $1 million to support the 2020 pilot, along with planning year for quarterly growth state covenings and pilot scale programs across 7 counties here in the state of Florida.
Just to kind of delve into it, give a little background on where the $1 million would be put into would be for pilot activities such as small businesses by engaging 40 micro and second stage minority entrepreneurs in an 8-month acceleration program to help them access $12 million in capital and procurement contracts. Also, pilot home restoration loan mortgage programs for mortgage, rehab, and energy efficiency loans for 40 home buyers and owners and 4 developers, just to name a few.
Okay, so to give a little bit about what the initiative is and what we were at the Capitol requesting. So there are a lot of racial and ethnic gaps, particularly in Florida. And as Florida transitions from being a majority retirement home where people come to relax after they've been working, we're making the transition to a majority minority state, which is going to be one of the few in the country. So we have to find ways to boost economic growth when you have young minorities coming here to Florida to start their businesses. So the Advancing Florida is a plan for inclusive growth and is in the areas of small business, workforce development, financial health, and neighborhood revitalization. So collaborators are requesting $1.1 million for a year of planning and piloting in 7 counties: Pinellas, Hillsborough, Orange County, Duval, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, where you have 71% of the minority workforce. And there were partners in this program. So we were piloting to get money to kind of plan for a year to get growth started before we implement an official plan.
And this is just a little show of just our experience of attending committee meetings, and we just want to thank Senator Rusan, if he's still here. He really made sure that we got the information that we needed, that we were connected to other senators and other House of Representatives while we were there during session, just letting us know how the legislative process works, to put in requests, really to see really what goes on inside of committee meetings and how racism and race plays a lot into getting things passed, the do's and don'ts. And he was a really great mentor to us while we were up there. So that was Maya Mitchell. And Maya Mitchell is finishing up her master's degree this summer. So she started summer school today, so she could not attend. But that's Maya Mitchell up there. To the left for Senator Rusan and Paris. after they attended one of Senator Rousson's committee meetings. That's myself in the middle with Louis Murphy Jr. And Christopher, which is the 2020 Virgin Leader as well. It was St. Pete at the Capitol, so we were up there all together advocating. And these are just some pictures of us, and we had a great time. Senator Rousson gave us tickets to the Black Caucus Gala, and we all attended that, and we're pictured with Representative Newton, and that's myself and Representative Hart out of Tampa. So we made a lot of great connections while we were there in Tallahassee with a lot of representatives that represents the Tampa, Pinellas County area. Like, they will share some information on what they learned in the process.
Okay, just a quick explanation. The top one is myself and Senator Rousson. This bottom picture is Deja and I. We were at the Capitol during Children's Week, where I was alongside my brother, actually helping advocate for the children and attending different committee meetings. The biggest takeaway was seeing how we elect our representatives, like such as Senator Rousson and Representative Wenge, who come from south sides of different cities, and they face a lot of obstacles in the Capitol when you have Senate that is majority of the other party. So they put a lot of loopholes and obstacles in their place to get change really going, specifically for people who look like us. So it was really interesting to see in those meetings how they fought for us the best that they could, even when they're up against those who really don't understand our challenges and issues.
Hello again, everybody. Just piggybacking off what Mike Hughes just said, it was a lot with the way they fought for us in those committee meetings, along with a lot of the wordplay used in these meetings. A lot of wordplay is very important and used precisely to get points across, especially in trying to pass certain bills. That was my biggest takeaway. Along with this internship, I was fortunate enough to also intern underneath Representative Barbara Watson out of District 107 down in Miami, Florida. So working alongside her, I also was able to conduct other meetings such as transportation and economic bills to be passed in Southern Florida. And there are a lot of long nights. There are long debates back and forth between the senators and the representatives throughout the state of Florida, just to get all of these little things that you really wouldn't pay attention to in day-to-day life. Especially being someone young like myself, I learned a lot about small bills and small things such as advocating for new railroads and highways we built in my city that can have a big effect on me and the areas I live in or that my family lives in. So that was my biggest takeaway, and just to kind of keep pushing forward as I move forward to still fight for some of these changes to be brought here to our city.
And I would just like to add, there are ways that you all can get engaged as well. This pipeline, this initiative, this move is not just for older people, and that's why I'm really happy that we were able to, because we didn't know much about it at first, but once we start attending committee meetings, and we were just like even more thrilled to want to know just how the process works to try to get something across. And really what I took away from it, race plays a big part. And whatever you're trying to push, everything is happening in Tallahassee that really plays a part in what's going on in the state of Florida, even in our backyard as well. So I just encourage you all who are at the event to get a part. I mean, become and join the 2020/1 Community Initiative. Our hope is that this pipeline can continue through my foundation. I actually forgot to mention that. So I am the founder of the Make It Out Foundation Incorporated. We award students and scholarships to who's interested in pursuing a post-secondary education. So our foundation provided staff support with the 2020 Community Initiative. And we're hoping that we can get our recipients and just more younger people from this area to want to join us. And our hopes is that we can continue this and that this can continue past this year. So what's next for the Advancing Florida Initiative? So we're just gonna name a few. So 70%, the hope is that 70% of 40 minority entrepreneurs will grow revenue and secure an aggregate of $12 million in capital. 80% of 60 people enrolled in Florida Lending Circles will grow their credit scores by an average of 40 points. Get involved with the 2020/1 Community initiative as soon as possible. So that's pretty much our push, and hopefully you were able to receive some different information from this.
Okay, thank you, ladies. And now we will have the passing of the torch led by our own Pastor Lewis Murphy Sr., Mount Zion Progressive Missionary Baptist Church, 20 years as pastor. If you would please come forward for the passing.
Good evening. If you're a native of St. Petersburg, just raise your hand if you're a native of St. Pete. Wow, that's a lot of folk that are actually natives. My first visit to St. Petersburg was 1976. And I promised I'd never come back to St. Pete. Because the only thing I saw was old people, green benches, and pigeons. And I asked somebody, well, where the black people at? They say Webb City. We went to Webb City, still didn't see not enough black people anyway, so I'm like, okay, I'm out. Never coming back here again. And lo and behold, the Lord brought me back to St. Pete in 1986 after spending some time at Florida A&M University, University of Central Florida, and the United States Marine Corps. And I say all that to say that when I got here, there were some people that were doing some things. I'm reminded of people like Watson Haynes, had his own office supply business, but also they were active in the community. One of the first organizations that I got involved with was COQUEBS, Concerned Organization for the Quality of Education of Black Students, with Verl Davis and Watson and Miss Jameson, I think her name was, and others. And that's where we kind of met Gypsy, and so they were already, if you will, passing the torch. But I never really was about doing this type of work, to be honest. Corporate America was my thing. You know, I worked for St. Pete Housing Authority, Tampa Bay Times, St. Pete Times, and Florida Power Corp. But God had a calling on my life. So people ask the question, are leaders born or are they made? And I say both. They're born and you develop into the leader that God has called you to. I don't know about many of you, but I'm so excited about the young people and the talent that I've seen here this evening. Amen. Yes, and so at when God called me to pastor Mount Zion, which I have no idea why he would do that. And I mean that because I had no experience of pastoring, hadn't preached but one sermon, but yet and still God said, okay, you're it. And when you truly depend on God to do his thing, he just wants to know if you're available, and then he will do the rest. So 20 years later, here we are. We've had the Agenda 2010, the 2020 plan, One Community, and we've been doing things very actively in the community, and this is just the fruits of our labor. So I don't know, to be honest, I'm a little confused about passing the baton because I really do believe that your vision should be so big that you don't have time to die. You just wake up one morning and you're dead. All right, you'll get that on your way home. Those Mount Zionites, they heard that before. But with all sincerity, we've got a lot of work to do. You heard the young people give the stats on the condition and the plight of our people. We already know what we are faced against. We know what it's like in Tallahassee. We know what it's like in Washington. And we've got to have young, sharp minds that are engaged, that are giving of themselves, and truly are involved in making sure that our people are advanced socially, economically, politically, spiritually. We've got work to do, and a lot of work has been done. So, and so I say, instead of just, pass the baton, but stay in the race. Amen. I have no problem, and a lot of the young people I know here, I have no problem in helping them reach their potential. But I also think that we got to work together. We need the young folk, and the young folk need us. Let me be clear about that. Amen. The millennials, the young people, the Generation Z, or whatever's coming next, we need each other. This thing is too big for any one generation to try to tackle it. We're standing on the shoulder. Amen. We're standing on the shoulder of giants that have come before us, and we need to be able to have that type of cohesiveness amongst ourselves and stop fighting each other.
Amen.
The crabs, I can't stand crabs. I'm being honest. It's easy to criticize and cut somebody down and they ain't doing this and they ain't doing that. I almost said something, but y'all say I'm a pastor, so I ain't gonna say what I really want to say. But hell is in the Bible. And some of us are going there if we don't get our act together. Amen. But listen, I just want you to know that young folks are emerging leaders in your inaugural event tonight, this commemoration, this commencement, this exercise. It's a good work. Know that what you're doing is a good work. And stay on the wall. Don't let nobody talk you down off the wall. Continue to do the work that God has called us to do. And just a couple of things I say, accept the critics. You're gonna have them. Accept the critics. If you ain't doing nothing, they ain't gonna talk about you. Amen. But then also assess the condition. Continue to keep your eyes open and see what the plight of our people are. See what we're going through. See what people need. We know we got this whole disparity in law enforcement, in the prison system. Continue to assess the condition and then advocate the cause. Stand up and cry out. Get involved politically. Make sure young folks say, well, they don't need to vote. No, that's a lie. People died to vote. Our people died to vote. Blood was shed. But not only should we advocate the cause, but acknowledge who your divine creator is and know that he said that you can do all things, through Christ who will strengthen you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. I'll always be with you. I'll never leave. I'm preaching now, but I'm just saying that know for a fact that God will see us through, and we can and we will make a difference in this city of St. Petersburg, Florida. God bless each and every one of you.
All right, y'all know we needed that sermonette, right? Yes, thank you, Pastor. And now, accepting the torch, if I could have defining the leader in me, Ashley Green, Caprice Johnson, Jaquivia Malone, and Raphael Robinson. You would all please come forward so that you can collectively talk about accepting the torch and defining the leader in me, because we all know that you have your own leadership styles and you have your own path to blaze. So,
good afternoon. I'm Jaquivia Malone. I'm a part of the 2020 Emerging Leaders, and I'm also on the Board of Community Development and Training, aka CVAT. I really am. I wrote something, so I'm just going to read it from here. I just wanted to let everybody know who's on the part of the initiative, Ms. Gypsy, Ms. Deb, Ms. Nikki, Brother John, everybody, that I was elated to be a part of the 2020 Emerging Leaders, the inaugural Emerging Leaders Fellowship and Intern Program. It was very thrilling. I really learned so much from everybody that was a part of this initiative. And I would really like to thank all of our guest speakers that took the time out to come in and teach us things about the community and teaching us it's okay to speak up and be a breakthrough leader. They also showed us that, the history of our city, the city that we live in today. And they also taught us about the long-time adversities that we faced here in St. Petersburg, us, people that look like us. And so I learned a lot of things that you will probably never see in the history book. And so this is why I feel like the passing of this torch is so vital and so important to our community, especially for our younger generation today. And so Elfie has not only pushed me to do things outside of my comfort zone, things that I don't normally do, such as standing up here in front of you all tonight. But it's also given me the opportunity to do things that I've never imagined doing, like standing here before you all tonight. So 6 months ago, I didn't think that I would be doing this, and I'm happy that I took the opportunity and took the chance to do this. So thank you all, and happy to accept the torch.
Hello, my name is Caprice Edmonds. When I think about leadership, I think about the wise words of our 44th President, Barack Obama. Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. We are the change that we seek. As a participant of Emerging Leaders, I learned St. Petersburg has a rich history and a wealth of resources. We must tap into those resources to effectively make changes in our community. Advocating for the best interests of youth and young adults has led me to joining organizations and volunteering in efforts to improve the well-being and education of our youth and young adults. While participating in these endeavors, I've encouraged others to participate or join and help build the organizations that will improve our community. The inaugural Emerging Leaders program has brought a group of dedicated and highly motivated people together with the common interest of improving our community. This program and other programs are establishing a precedent that we won't wait for some other time or some other person. We are the change that we seek.
Good evening, everyone. I am Raphael Robinson, CEO of I2E LLC and 2020 Emerging Leader. First of all, I want to say thank you to the leadership providing us this opportunity, this awesome opportunity to cultivate ourselves and to be able to learn so much about what a good leader is. You all modeled for us what a good leader is. But when I think about defining a leader, I would say a leader has three qualities. A leader has to be a person with a compelling vision. That vision has to be so big that it almost scares you. You know, also a leader has to embody that vision. When a person looks at Raphael Robinson, I want them to know that I stand for education. Anything that has to do with education, I'm about it. Right. So when you see me and you talk to me, I want to be able to exude that. And the last thing is, a good leader is a person that knows how to empower people. There are a lot of great leaders in our community, but there are a lot of leaders that don't know how to empower the people around them. And when I say that, I mean, we ought to be able to give people the tools, the resources, the knowledge, the skills, in order to make those visions become realities. And being a part of this 2020 Emerging Leaders program, that's exactly what we were able to do. We were able to learn from leaders throughout our community, take that leadership information and apply it by going and volunteering and being on different staffs and different initiatives throughout the community to make that change. So when you see us, I want you guys to look at us as the next leaders that will be taking the torch. Thank you.
All right, y'all gave me the mic, so I'm gonna take the time. But I promise I'm not gonna take too much time. Hey, my name is Ashley Green, and I wanna say I'm deeply humbled to have been a part of the Emerging Leaders and Fellowship and Internship Program. I am so grateful to the people who led this program, to Ms. Gypsy, to Ms. Nikki, to Ms. Deborah, to Brother John, for all the effort that you put into making these last 6 months possible and just such a nurturing experience. This is a time where most people expect me to share something inspirational, but I feel like it's more important to share something honest with you today. And honestly, it is hard to be a leader. Leadership is something that I was called to very young. As a child, I remember arguing with my mother when she told me that life wasn't fair. Now, I was only about 7 years old, and I knew arguing with my mother was a surefire way to get a spanking. Worse than a spanking sometimes. And punishment. But I felt so incredibly, so viscerally, that the reason why life isn't fair was because adults kept telling me it's just how it was. That the reason we continued to see injustice was because people have written it off as an inevitability. I felt so powerfully about this, and from that point on, I made justice my cause. I fought with teachers and administrators throughout school. I fought with my peers, I fought with bosses, I fought with politicians, and with my family, all in the name of justice and fairness. And I'm still fighting today, but I'm weary. I'm really weary. Because far too many people remain unmoved to the challenge ahead of us. Far too many people have counted themselves out. Far too many people have counted their neighbors, their family, their own community, and their own people out. Far too many people who live on the South Side have counted the South Side out. And so I joined Elfie looking for inspiration, looking for others to share leadership with. And in some measures, I found it. In the presentations of our elders, in the debates we've shared over dinners, over the moments I've spent with some of you all outside of Elfie, over the presentations and brilliance that you all shared around the impact study. As emerging leaders, we have a responsibility not just to this community, but to one another. We have to be there to encourage one another when we're struggling, to inspire one another when we are prepared to quit or give up, and to hold each other accountable when we see one another failing to uphold the values we espouse. The real work begins once we leave this program. The real work begins when we have to put our actions in, or when we have to put our words into actions. We may have decades to go before we see real justice and fairness in our community, and we must be better. I'm sorry, y'all, but we must be better than those who have come before us. When we think we don't have the time, we better find it. Oh, I said we have to be better than those who came before us. I love y'all, I really do. I really do. But we're not gonna change if we're not willing to be better than those who've already sacrificed and paid for our inheritance. We have to pay it forward, not just for ourselves, but for the next generation. I believe in us. I believe in Maria. I believe in Dorian. I believe in Christopher. I believe in Raphael. I believe in Caprice. I believe in Jakivia. I believe in Deja. I believe in all of us. And so I'm looking to you to help me be less weary, to stand with me in this fight for now and all the years to come. With my final words, I want to share the end of a speech that Dr. King gave in Cleveland in 1967 following the Huff riots to another group of weary leaders, both young and old. He said, well, life for none of us has been a crystal staircase, but we must keep moving. We must keep going. And so if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving. Thank you so much.
As we continue on in our program, we'd like to make sure that we recognize the amazing presenters who poured into this class, and so many of them who blazed trails themselves. And I will not take away the thunder of the presenters. If Mr. Christopher McClendon and Ms. Dorian Johnson would come forward, they're going to be recognizing some of the presenters who have paid so much love and into our community, poured so much love into our community, into leaders like myself and others, that we were so happy that they joined us in teaching and working with this class. So Chris and Dorian.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Again, my name is Dorian Johnson, and I am a member of the Emerging Leaders. Chris and I are up here to recognize some of our special guests who took time out of their busy schedules to shed their light and love for the city on us. Starting with Renee Flowers. She was elected to the school board on November 6, 2012 to complete the term of school board member Lou Williams, current chair of the Pinellas County School Board. She formerly served as a member of the City Council of St. Petersburg, serving as vice chairperson in 1999 and 2006, and as chairperson for 2 consecutive terms, 2000 to 2002. We would like to thank Ms. Flowers, who was the presenter for the Influencing Corporate and Public Policy session. We will accept this token of our appreciation on her behalf. Next, we have Ms. Gwen Reese, a dedicated community leader and equality activist. Ms. Reese has dedicated her career to supporting initiatives that improve families and create a high quality of life for others. She has been an ardent advocate for preserving the history that African Americans have made to the St. Petersburg community. This passion led to her selection as the president of the African American Heritage Association. Under her leadership, the African American Heritage Association focused on developing a walking trail through historic neighborhoods in St. Petersburg. It captured the oral histories of the great people, like those who built tracks for the Orange Belt Railway, laid Augusta blocks in the historic Old Northeast, and made the Prize Hex block seen on some city sidewalks. Ms. Reese strived to us this project to bring the St. Petersburg community together and was the presenter of our first session, Knowing Your St. Petersburg History. Come on up, Ms. Reese.
Thank you, Ms. Reese. Our next presenter that we're going to recognize tonight is Ms. Elizabeth V. Sipling. She's the CEO and founder of Impact Solutions, LLC in St. Petersburg, Florida. Retiring after 26 years in the United States Army, a highly respected professional, she has developed a program that is focused on building leadership, communication, and team building skills, as well as diversity, inclusion, and financial literacy strategies. Ms. Sipling was a presenter for our 2-part leadership training, and we would like to thank her for a very informative session. If you can come up and receive the special gift that we have for you. Alrighty, so next we're gonna recognize the Reverend Dr. Wayne Thompson. He is the pastor of the First Baptist Institutional Church in St. Petersburg. Reverend Dr. Thompson has been at the forefront of youth initiatives in the state of Florida and the nation. He was the national president of One Church, One Child, which is a national recruiting advocate for African American children to be adopted. He started in the ministry in 1975. He became pastor of First Baptist in 1984 after being an interim for 1 year. He attended seminary at Florida Memorial Seminary and the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia. His unbridled passion, coupled with his exceptional gift for communication, have afforded him numerous notable gubernatorial appointments and has made him a much sought after preacher and lecturer, both locally and nationally, because of his strong social justice journey, being born and raised in St. Petersburg. we are presenting, he presented a session on the transition of Black St. Petersburg. So in his absence, we're gonna receive his gift for him tonight, if you can give him a hand. Thank you. I know this is a little bit uncharted and unscheduled, but at this time, can all of the emerging leaders please come forward? We have something special to present to the most special person in the room. Ms. Deborah, if you can join us up front. We would like to take this moment, and I'll speak on the behalf of those, if they have something that they would like to say, by all means. But Ms. Deborah took up her time and her talent and the natural giftings that are on the inside of her, and she poured all of that out onto us and into us without reservation. And so tonight, I think there's so much more that we could do, but this is what we are doing in recognition to someone that I believe, just really goes beyond the person that you see. And so if we can just applaud her, stand on your feet and give her a round of applause tonight.
All right. Wow. It takes a lot for me to be speechless. But what I wanted to actually, before the night, I really wanted to introduce all of them. I will say, when we first started the emerging leaders, I looked in the room and I knew some, didn't know everyone. But I will tell you, as the time went on, I have seen, they were already fantastic. But I have seen so many blossoms, so many emergence of wonderful, wonderful people. This is one of those proud mama moments. For me, this is really one of those proud mama. And they will tell you, I was giving, but I was also hard. And I was also kind of honest. And please know, you need to chart that to the head and not the, well, no, you know what? You can chart it to the heart, because those of us, Miss Gypsy, I need you to stand. Miss Nikki, I need you to stand. Brother John, I need you to stand. Because one thing that we know is that the journey, and you've heard it, is not easy. And you have to have that thick skin, but we don't want you to stop. We don't want this to be the end of your relationship. Hopefully you all have formed a fellowship amongst yourselves to continue this journey. And know you have wonderful people like Miss Reese, Miss Flowers, Pastor Murphy, Reverend Haynes, that are here for you to answer those questions, because you've seen us. Because I remember our first initial meeting when we heard, well, you had the same people doing the same thing. Lord, I'm gonna tell you, success is not swift, nor is it easy. And I think you see that. Ashley, she can be my agitator anytime. I love Ashley Green because she brought something different to the equation. Every one of you, I am so proud. Dorian, she's actually standing here before you. This was one that didn't want to speak, but yet and still she is a fantastic model. Have you seen her? She's a fantastic model. And I'm gonna say this before we get in their checks. Brother Shorter, I did not know he was a minister. And to see him, his persona is so cool and so calm and so professional, but I would have to have him on my team. Jakivia, she's another one. Brother Muhammad is her dad. She won't share that. But how can you be raised in a household of a community activist and not be as wonderful as she is? She has her own spirit, and she's a powerful giant. Jenny Henry is an entrepreneur, Simple Delights Catering. The mother of three, and she's done a fantastic job of raising her children and running a business, which we all know is not easy to do. Marielle Summers, I don't even know what to say about Marielle. You know, and that is Marielle. That is her. Marielle brought that brilliance. She brought that with her, and we were just so glad that she shared that with us. Ashley Green. You know, sometimes I would just look at Ashley and be like, Lord, what am I going to do with Ashley? But I will tell you, she brought that element of understanding the difficulty of being a leader, being young, being engaged, wanting to make a difference, and as she says, she's weary. And I'm hoping you have 10 other emerging leaders, Ashley, to help you through this journey. Eunicia Bullard. You all, this young lady is only 21 years old. 22, you just turned 22? 22 years old, claim it all. She has her own business, and she's also working with, what is the initiative with your father in the criminal juvenile system? Senator Roussard. Okay, so she did not take her age and say, I'm too young to make a difference. She has met with Chief Holloway, Senator Roussard, to make a difference at the age, she was 21 at the time, to make that difference. Caprice Johnson. Now when Caprice came, I didn't know Caprice. But by the time I got to know Caprice, Caprice was everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need a true champion, a true articulate professional that will get the job done, I don't know how she has the time or the energy, but Caprice is everywhere, and I have to give her accolades on that, because I am so impressed with Caprice. Then we have Raphael Robinson. He did not tell you that he has a book. He's an author, and it's currently on the desk of Dr. Grego at Pinellas County Schools. He also owns Robinson's Ice. He's also a business owner, and he's an elementary school teacher. Yeah. So that alone, I am so impressed. So you see what a wonderful group and diversity of engagement that we have. Then we have Deja. Deja is a college student at the Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University at the time when she started Make a Way Foundation. And what that is, she was asking for donations to help college students in St. Petersburg financially that were struggling. A college student now, when I was a college student, I was always broke. And it was not my initiative or my desire to try to help somebody else get money. But Deja took it upon herself to start her own foundation, Make It Out Foundation, and for that she should be applauded. And then we have Gloria Johnson, one of the most beautiful spirits I've met in a super, super long time. She has such a soft and calming nature about herself, always really quiet, and she would come up after the sessions, well, Miss Deb, what can I do with Miss Deb? I need to do this with Miss Deb. And I was like, Dorian, reach out. But if you were to see her on the runway, all of that shyness, that meekness, that mildness, she's fierce. And she's also an elementary school teacher. And lastly, I can't say enough about Christopher Dalvin. Y'all call him Christopher McClendon. He is Christopher Dalvin. This young man did not hesitate to volunteer, to do what was necessary to be done. And as I introduced him at our Vision District Expo, this young man is fierce when it comes to beating your face, as they say. He's a fantastic makeup artist. You wouldn't know that, would you? He is a fantastic makeup artist. And what's the name of your business? Salon Bespoke. He owns his own business. He owns his own business. So, what's your address? 7110 9th Avenue North. Ladies and gentlemen, let's encourage and let's patronize our business owners. But again, the diversity of the hearts and the minds and the intelligence and the intellect that you see standing here. It's such a proud moment for me. These are beautiful, beautiful flowers, but the memories that they've given me, these flowers will fade, but the memories and the experience I will cherish for a life. I mean it. not easy for me to tear up. The P's are fantastic. Yeah, don't go anywhere. We go. Okay, so here's what this is what they really came for. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and give them their checks. So now listen. One of the initiatives of this, well, no, you're not going to get it today. Don't try to put. Okay, so one of the initiatives of this was upon successful completion, they're going to earn $2,000 stipends, right? So with the successful completion of this program, we wanted to formulate our emerging leaders, but we also wanted to recognize their participation and their commencement of being a part of this. So again, this whole wonderful experience, and I had a list, since I've already gone through the whole list of who they are, and I know that we're watching time, but we also had some that went above and beyond. And for those that went above and beyond, we have Ms. Caprice Johnson, who will be getting $22.50, Christopher McClendon, Deja Sawyer, and Mario Summers. They just had this strong desire to be everywhere, do everything, be everything to everybody, just be wonderful, fantastic, awesome, and all of that wrapped into one. And we really appreciate them for that. So they actually have, let me see yours. They actually have mock checks. They can't cash them. They're gonna have to go to the Urban League and pick up the actual check. But we just wanted to give them their token and to celebrate them and to thank you. And please don't forget your legislative form from Senator Roofstein as well. You're getting them all. So with that being said, I'm gonna ask Ms. Nikki Gaskin-Capehart to come and do our closing words. And again, this has been a fantastic experience. But I will say this though, none of this would have been able to take place had it not been for Gypsy C. Gallardo. She thinks she's not gonna get this microphone, but she has to say something. Come on, say thank you. All of this is her brainchild. This is what she does. And we want to thank Gypsy for this, because none of this could have happened had it not been for Ms. Gallardo.
Now, I texted Deb this morning. I was 10 days in Jamaica doing a writing retreat. Did not speak a word to another person for an entire 10 days, 25 yards from the ocean. I wasn't even sure I could make it here this evening. And I texted Deb and said, A, I pray that I am not on the program, and B, I will try my best to do my hair for this occasion. And that's all I committed to, and now she has me at the microphone. But I want to say, with deepest pride, to our inaugural first ever class of 2020 Emerging Leaders. One of you said that you will have to be better than we are. You already are better than we are. I could not speak the way you speak at a microphone when I was your age. I could not represent our issues with passion the way that Marielle did this evening. I want to thank Deja. When I asked her, could you lead a team of interns up in Tallahassee, she basically said, show you right, yes I can. And she did that, you did that. And each one of you, Chris, I want to thank for going to Tallahassee with the St. Petersburg Area Chamber of Commerce. When I put out a call to say who would do that, he did that. And each of you has stepped forward in the capacity of leaders, even though the title of this program is Emerging. I would like for you to know that you are already there. You have the love of Brother John, myself, Deborah, Nikki, as leaders of this program. You have the relationship that you have built with us over these months. You have a reference, you have an addition on your resume, and you have our hearts are with you to raise up to be the leaders of the next generation in this community. We are so proud of you, and I just want everyone here to join me in just giving them the biggest round of applause.
nurture yourselves. Take care of yourselves. You heard Miss Gypsy say she needed to be in Jamaica. We have to take care of ourselves because we understand that we can take better care of the community when we take better care of ourselves. So don't allow yourself to grow weary in the work. Support each other. Continue to do that no matter where you are, but nurture yourselves because you are not going to be effective in leadership if you are not able to take care of yourself. Physically, mentally, spiritually, make sure you do that. So please come forward and support them this evening. Have your photos, and we thank you again so very much. Give them another round of applause.